Hey Finxters, welcome to this video. It's Chris, founder of Finxter.com, and in today's video I'm going to discuss whether it is smart for you to create an LLC as a freelance developer. So I'm not an accountant, I'm a programmer, so please don't take this advice with a grain of salt. So you should always consult with your accountant or lawyer before taking any conclusive action on your business. Good. Okay, so what is an LLC in the first place? This actually applies only to US-based citizens, but I'm a German business owner, in similar manner, many of the tips I give in this video also apply to people in other countries, like in Germany. In Germany, you have GmbH or GmbH, which is like also a business with limited liability. So there are similar structures for you as a business owner in other countries in the world, and some of the learnings may also apply to you. So what is an LLC? An LLC, or limited liability company, is a business structure in the United States whereby the owners are not personally liable for the company's debts or liabilities. Limited liability companies are hybrid entities that combine the characteristics of a corporation with those of a partnership or sole proprietorship. Okay, so an important point here is, first of all, that it is limited. So it limits your personal liability for the company's debts or liabilities. Okay, so if you create a company and you take on some debt, and now the company fails, it becomes bankrupt, for example, then somebody has to pay these debts usually. Yeah. So if your company cannot pay them, and you are liable as the business owner, then you have to pay the debts personally. So the business is a separate entity, but if the business cannot pay it, usually you have to pay it yourself. Or if there are some other liabilities the company has entered in. Liabilities can be similar to debt. For example, if a company has a multi-year contract with some other company, then these are liabilities. The company sooner or later has to pay the money, and if the company now is getting bankrupt and you are not protected by a limited liability company, then you personally have to take over the responsibility for paying these liabilities. And that's where the LLC comes into the play, yeah, because a limited LLC is like the minimum liability protected company you can build as an American business owner, and it helps you protect yourself against these liabilities, so that you personally still have your assets. You can still own your house and your mutual fund and your stocks and bonds and all the assets you basically have. You are protected, even if your company, even like the worst case happens, your company gets bankrupt, or you fail with your company and becomes bankrupt and you fail, then you don't have to take the liability over yourself. So the company, this means that usually the debtors or the other companies who own the liabilities with respect to your company, they have to pay it, and you don't have to pay it as a business owner. So it protects you in a way against bankruptcy, against personal bankruptcy. And you can, for example, create your own assets. You can have your own assets, and you also can have a company. And if the company fails, if the company becomes bankrupt, then you still own your personal assets. So there's a statement that is called piercing the corporate veil, and it's not always so easy, yeah, because sometimes there are limitations of this limited liability, and this is if you don't if you don't adhere to your legal rights. So, for example, you don't pay taxes or so, or you do some really bad things, like illegal things under your corporate veil, then a judge may rule or may decide that your limited liability protection will be removed, and then as a consequence, you as a person will be held liable for this. So you need always to still be a good citizen and create value and don't do anything illegal, even if you own an LLC. Okay, but maybe let's go into the pros and cons of an LLC directly. So what are some advantages and disadvantages of an LLC? And first of all, you have limited liability. So if you keep your finances separate and you fulfill your duties as a business owner, you cannot be personally held liable. Your personal assets like real estate, stocks, bonds, mutual funds will remain protected even if your business fails. On the contrary, we have already discussed that that there is this notion of piercing the corporate veil, which means that the limited liability protection can be removed theoretically, and in many cases, if business owners just do illegal things, they are not protected by the limited liability. They can be held liable personally. Then we also have, as an advantage, we have a pass-through federation taxation on profits. This means that your profits are not taxed on a company level. If you have some profits, like you earn 100,000 euros on dollars on the company, then these are not subject to taxation directly. So this is different to other to bigger companies and other other entities, legal entities, but the profits are taxed on the individual level. Okay, so you as a business owner, you own the LLC, but all the profits are basically your profits or the owner's profits, and they are only taxed on the owner level. And this is an advantage if you have a relatively lower tax rate, and it also avoids double taxation. So in some other entities, they are taxed on a company level and also on the individual level if you try to get the money out of the business. Okay, so you have 2 times taxation, which can be a disadvantage. You also have management flexibility, so the LLC can also be managed by one or more owners. So you can be a single owner or single person LLC or single member LLC, and you can have multiple member LLC, so multiple owners, multiple managements. So you can also create some partnerships with different persons, and these different persons can be partial owners of your business. So this is also one of the advantages. The startup overhead is relatively simple, so a few $100 and you should be good to go with your LLC. You also have some regular duties, and you should adhere to these duties, because otherwise, again, it could happen that your corporate veil is pierced and you lose your limited liability protection if you don't fulfill your obligations. And what you also can have, there's another advantage that you can do unproportional profit distribution. So, for example, you can have another owner, like your wife or so, and and your wife may be a partial owner, or your children, say, are partial owners. They own maybe, say, only 20% of the company. So you still control the company with 80%, but you can distribute the profits to the other owners unproportionally. So therefore, for example, you can pay 80% of the profits to your children, even if they own only 20%. And also credibility, of course, if you limited liability corporation has more credibility or enjoys more credibility than, say, only a sole simple business. So this is only if you're in US. This shows basically that you are an US-based business person and you are also serious if you create an LLC. There are some cons. We have already discussed one multiple times, is piercing the corporate veil. Con is also self-employment tax. So per default, you must pay self-employment tax on the profits of an LLC, on the whole profits, 100% profits, because it is a pass-through entity. So all the profits are passed through your personal level. So you have to pay the self-employment tax, which is in addition to the income tax, you have to pay self-employment tax. It can be turnover, so the LLC basically dies if a partner dies, if a partner goes bankrupt or leaves the company, then the company will be dissolved and you need to create a new company. And basically by doing this, you take over all the leaving partner's obligations that results in dissolving the LLC. So this can be a disadvantage. Also, it is said that it's difficult to raise some outside capital. This is usually not a problem for you as a freelance developer. If you're a coder, you don't need a lot of capital. Doing freelance work is not capital intensive. So you can start with a few $100 and just sell your time. It's like an employee, and being an employee is also not time intensive. So usually these companies have a high profit rate. So freelance developer companies have a high profit margin, and therefore you don't leave a lot of capital in the LLC. You just pay it to yourself. So the LLC is not by per default not able to keep capital in it and compound capital in a way. If you're interested in how to compound capital in a pre-tax basis, then check out my other video which I released yesterday, the ultimate tax guide for hackers. So it's more focused on how you can increase good expenses, like investment expenses in your company to reduce your tax burden in a completely legal way, and reinvest the profits and earn more cash flow in the subsequent years. Good. This is a video. It is called the Unofficial Freelance Developer Tax Guide. You can also check it out. I released it yesterday. Good. And so what is the difference between, what should you decide, Freelancer, LLC, or Sole Proprietorship? Sole Proprietorship is a freelancer's default business entity. So per default, you are a sole proprietor. And if you don't explicitly form an LLC or corporation, you'll automatically operate as a sole proprietor. And the advantage is that you are generally not, advantage of an LLC compared to a sole proprietor is that you are not liable for debts or liabilities of your freelancing business, and this protects your personal assets. So if possible, you should go for the LLC route and not the sole proprietorship route, because here there can be potentially devastating, this can have potentially devastating effect to your personal finances. So go the LLC route if possible. And then also a question is Freelancer, LLC, or SCorp. What is better? Per default, single member LLCs are automatically taxed like sole proprietors as pass-through entities. Okay, single member LLCs are taxed like sole proprietors similarly as pass-through entities. If you don't want to do this, so the business isn't taxed, but you are. The SCorp basically is just an alternative way. It is not a business entity in a way. It is more the taxation agreement you have with the IRS. So SCorp is just an alternative way you choose to get taxed. So you ask the IRS to tax your single member LLC as an S corporation, and as a result, you don't have to pay self-employment tax anymore on the corporate profit. But of course, you also need to pay yourself a salary then. So because then the corporation can like keep some money in it, and you don't have to pay self-employment tax on this money that is kept within the corporation itself. So therefore, you pay usually less self-employment tax, but you need to pay yourself a salary, and on this salary, of course, you have to pay self-employment tax. But then usually half of the self-employment tax is paid by the LLC, and this, of course, reduces also the tax burden of the LLC because it can deduct the expenses for self-employment tax. So it can partially deduct, the expenses for the self-employment tax if you create an LLC, which can be an advantage. But of course, I mean, you need to consult a professional here before you do this. Just so you know, there can be some advantages if you combine LLC with an SCorp. It can reduce your tax burden significantly, and it can save you thousands and even tens of thousands of dollars per year if you do this. So check it out. Check out the advantages you have if you do this. Maybe ask your accountant or tax advisor. Anyways, but it's just a quick mentioning of this. Of this possibility you may have. Good. Okay, so that's it. That's it in today's video. It was a quick overhead about the pros and cons of the LLC for a freelance developer. Usually, it's the best structure, I would say, for US-based citizens to create their freelance business. If you are a non-US based citizen, then often there's something similar. In Germany, it is GmbH. In other countries like England, it is a limited company. So there are some similar ways to protect your own assets, your personal assets, if you create your freelancing business. And you have many advantages as a business owner, because you can deduct things like you can deduct your computer or your smartphone or your expenses you need for work. So you have many of these business advantages. Also check out my other video which I just released. It's called the Unofficial Freelance Developer Tax Guide, and it shows how you can leverage these advantages via pre-tax investments, and instead of paying 40% of taxes, you can reinvest those into your own business to create a growing business machine. Good, thanks for watching this video. Also check out our other Finxter videos, check out the Python Freelancer course, and check out our book, Leaving the Rat Race with Python. All of those are tailored tutorials or guides for freelance developers to become more successful business owners and to help you thrive as a business owner in the coding area online. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video. Bye.